I was proud of that. But taking it from here, how you felt, because you were the general manager, you had to follow all the angles. So
yeah, I think
you recognize the work in Albania in these words, right?
Yes. I think it was the fear of the unknown.
Yes, exactly.
But in reality, like you said, the team that you put together worked very, very closely, and we couldn't have done it without that team. So we got a lot of help and support. And yes, there's bureaucracy in every country, but it was, once we'd done one package, it was easy. And the good thing to me was the teamwork that we had, and the fact that you could, if you needed any advice or any help, I could go to the ministry, just knock on the door, and I was welcomed. So yes, it was a real pleasant surprise for everybody, like you say.
And then the work ended wonderfully, I believe, at least for what I know and for our part, with, by the way, a very interesting experience in property mapping and property retribution and all the process, which was very interesting, because you know that we have these struggles with mapping, cadastre, properties, private, overlappings and all this, and this was really an impressive part. Yeah. But then you had to go. And apparently you left, but you didn't really leave, no?
No, I didn't leave. But before I go on to that, there's one thing I would like to say about the project, because as well as the help that we received from the authorities, I was really, really impressed with the workforce that we got. Because when I put together the organisation that we needed from a construction point of view, and at first I thought we would have to bring lots of expats in country. I soon realised that was wrong, and we did a campaign to bring people into TAP, to show them what working for TAP would look like, and really ask them, do you really want to do this? Because some of the work in the field is hard, 12 plus hours a day. Throughout the year, we don't stop. And from that exercise, we got a team together that was one of the best teams that the whole length of the project had. And the shareholders recognised that. And the other thing I recall is that there was a construction manager from the contractor. He was older than me. He'd been around the world. And he said, some of the Albanians that are working for us, I would take anywhere in the world. So not only did we get the help from the government, we had the locals to support us. And that made our life a lot easier, because you don't have to bring people in, accommodate them. Expats always want to change things. If you treat a local with respect, tell him what to do, train him, he will do it. And that was proven.
Well paid, well insured, well protected.
Yeah, look after him,
yeah. And then?
Then, I decided I wanted to stay in Albania when I was working for TAP. So
really?
I invested in a property when I was still working for TAP.
This was, anyway, your last job in the company,
I knew
right?
it would be the end of my career.
Yes, in terms of active career.
Yeah, 40-odd years working away from home, most of that career. Like I say, in various countries all throughout the world. So I decided that I would semi-retire, because I don't like the word retire.
Exactly. I did mention.
So I decided that Albania was the place. And why did I decide that?
But how many countries you have been?
I started off in Kazakhstan. I went to Kazakhstan in 1992. And I spent 12 years, not all in one go, but in 3 different projects. So a lot of my career was in Kazakhstan. And I saw it after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And I saw it after a lot of oil and gas investment. And that was a magical journey, both good and bad. I saw the good side and the bad side of putting money into a country. From there, I took the family, this was a good experience, to Singapore. It was a project offshore Burma, Myanmar, but we were based in Singapore, and then I moved the family to Burma. Now, Burma was under a military regime,
Yes.
very, very poor. We were restricted. Our telephones were tapped. You had to get permission not only to come in the country, but to leave the country. But what an experience, especially for my young girls. I've got two girls.
God bless them.
And they went from Singapore, where it's I want this, I want that, money, 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 to seeing real poverty, but in an environment where people looked after each other. So although they were suppressed, they were the most happiest people I've ever come across. I call it a real smile, and I call Singapore a plastic smile, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, because during dictatorship here it was horrible, but we laughed a lot.
Yeah.
So people used to laugh a lot. Laugh a lot. It was the only way to somehow escape the hell was through jokes.
Yeah.
And jokes were also the only way to kind of undermine the thing without really exposing yourself, and the laughter was a big consolation, and we laughed a lot. And everyone of at least of my circle, my generation, says we don't laugh anymore like we used to do.
Yeah, interesting, really interesting.
Yeah.
So from there, I went back to Kazakhstan for another project, and I saw the difference, like I mentioned. But then I went to Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, which again was a fascinating place.
Beautiful country, huh?
Beautiful country, small island, small population, wealthy with oil and gas, and also like methanol, massive. In fact, it was the biggest methanol producer in the world. All the gas was exported to the States. But I still, when we were going to the field, which was really in a tropical environment, you'd see people washing themselves at the side of the road with from a cold water tap. They didn't have running water in the houses. And that's a real issue, that the country was wealthy, but it didn't flow down. And a similar thing in Kazakhstan, but not as bad. It was so obvious in Trinidad that there was this just huge divide for such a small island. But that was a great place. The family used to visit me for obvious reasons, so I had plenty of visits during the holidays. From there back to Kazakhstan, from Kazakhstan to Australia, which was a great project, massive project, and then from Australia to Albania.
So from all the nests you migrated, Albania was the one you picked to stay.
Yes.
And you invested in a property. What you did? Where?
It's an apartment near Teg.
Here.
Yes.
I mean, you are Tirana resident.
Yes.
If I can use this word.
Yes.
And you go back and forth in London?
I live in the southwest, a nice place, Devon, which is a couple of 100 kilometres from London. So it's a contrasting life. Having moved around, I find it hard to stay in one place. And the contrast between Albania, I've got a place here which was a new place. Back home, my house is 130 years old, with a big garden. So I don't have a garden here, but back there I do. And the contrast between the two keeps me active and keeps me entertained and occupied. For me to stay in one place, I would get very nervous.
And how you distribute the
It's roughly,
time?
I would say, 60% Albania, 40% in
your
the
family.
UK.
What they say? They say you are okay. Or there is something wrong with you?
No, they love Albania. My two girls are grown up. One's in Australia, so obviously, she doesn't come to Albania. She's been many times, but obviously the distance prevents that. My other daughter is in Scotland, and it's interesting, really. I can get to Scotland quicker from Albania than I can from the southwest, because the southwest I would drive. It would take 8 hours. Here there's a flight to Edinburgh, and it takes me 4 hours, well, less, 3 hours.
3 hours and something.
Yeah, and then half an hour across to Glasgow. So, my children, when they were children, or younger at least, have been out here and they love it. They love it.
They love it.
And so, I mean, all my family have been on more than one occasion. I'm like a tour guide to not just the family, but friends and the extended family. So I don't know anybody who's had a bad word for Albania, and that says a lot.
Yeah, it's true. But a common friend was telling me that you sometimes are not critical, but you sometimes are like, why Albanian people have to go to Britain?
Yes, yeah.
Can you explain this?
Yes and no. I prefer Albania to living in a city. Living in London, to me, is